Oh my goodness. This conversation with Amy Tucker is so good. So Amy Tucker is the CEO and founder of Salty Britches. And we talk about so many different things that if you're on a pathway and you feel lost, confused, scared, Amy shares countless tactical things for you to use. This is one that impacted me greatly. And I mean, just to name a few is follow your values. You have to know your values. You have to have a plan. You have to have a solid team around you during difficult times. Don't try to do things by yourself. And the last thing that I meant to talk to her about at the very end, but she wrapped up the episode so eloquently, I did not want to add anything other than what she shared, is think about in life, and this will make sense when you listen to the episode, of how many Aunt Janet moments that you can make for other people. So just pay attention to that, think about it, and ladies and gentlemen, Amy Tucker. So you said you worked out. What did you do this morning?
So I'm a member of All Day Running Company,
Mm-hmm.
and they push forward. Are you in that group?
I'm not.
I love it. But they push out a workout every day, and it's a challenge. It's things I'm not used to doing. Now, running, I love. I could just go run, and that would be fun. But this is stuff that I don't love. You know, it's burpees, and it's thrusters, and it's push-ups, and it's squats, and lots of jumping jacks, and wall sits, and all those things. So I'm kind of digging it because it's I can tell it's gotten a little bit easier. And then when I run, my runs are a lot easier.
Yeah.
As a result of doing the cross training. So that's what I did this morning. And it's fun. I enjoy it.
Now, of all those,
I'm lying. It's not fun. I do not like it.
see, you got to be honest. Well, of all those things that you hate, that you don't, I know you said you like running. What's one of the things that you've started to enjoy that you didn't like before?
The jumping squats, jumping jack squats. It's like I get into a flow with that and I can go forever. It's been interesting because I really hated them in the beginning, and I found a groove. So it's been a bit of a dopamine dump because I'm like, I can do this and I can do this and do it and do it, do it. So that's been really fun for me.
I did those. Do you remember Sean T? And he had the insanity workout. You would get the DVDs.
Yeah.
And so those were some of the ones that he had done in there. And no lie, like you were saying, is I did his 45-minute workout every day. And then I didn't run for almost 12 weeks, but I just did his workout. I ran the fastest 5K I'd ever run.
Yeah, I can totally tell a difference. And when I run, I'm not a fast runner, but my speed has increased. Like my body can go and go. It feels like it's my lungs that I really struggle with. So that has even improved. Even in the cold, I've seen improvements.
Interesting.
So that's been really exciting for me to see, because I've ran for years and years, never really productively. It's always been a struggle. I've never really enjoyed it all that much, but I've done it for years and years and years. Now I can see a real progression, and I actually kind of crave it. And I've never really craved it before. So that's been fun. Yeah.
You'll have to create an inhalable Salty Britches for our lungs.
A little balm for the inside.
Something. Or your heart rate. Holy smoke. That's my problem, is when I start running either fast, I'm doing air quotes, even though nobody will be able to see it, but it's like my heart rate just skyrockets.
Yeah.
And then I got to bring it back down. That was my big challenge with Mid-State Mile.
Well, you know what, the other thing we've been doing in my little, because I meet with these ladies at 5 a.m. to run, and we started doing sprints. And it's so funny because we're downtown in our tiny little town, and there's two roads. There's one where, you can pull in and park, and then you can drive out, and there's parking spots all along, but there's no one there when we're there. So we take one section of that downtown and just do sprints. And we try to beat 20 seconds. I don't know how far the little distance is. We do it by time, and we try to beat our time. And we laugh because we're like, if somebody, we know all these places have cameras, they've got to be watching their cameras and seeing these 3 middle-aged women just running our guts out and sprinting up and down that little section. But those sprints have helped my heart rate tremendously.
Oh, sure.
But they're not fun either. But nothing that really makes you any better is a whole lot of fun, I've learned.
No. The only thing I could think of is when they, on the cameras, if they see the 3 of you running, they're waiting to see if somebody's chasing you. They're like, nobody's there. What's the deal?
They'll see us run up, and then they see us walk back, and then they see us run up, and then they see us walk back. Yeah, so that has helped a lot. But yeah, the heart rate thing, because I would just have not been patient with the zone training at all. That's a long, progressive grind to get that heart rate training under control. It's hard,
especially when you get to our age. I know you're way younger than I am.
I think I'm right there with you, Jeff. I'm right behind you.
That's the way you want to be. That's the only race you want to be behind in, is the age race.
Yeah, you have a big one coming up this year, right?
2 weekends ago.
Oh, you've already turned 50? I think I did know
50.
that. Congratulations.
Yep. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, you've given us a ton of analogies so far that we can dive into. So to give you a little background on Pathways to Greatness, is I wanted to start this because there's so many people that are looking to do new things and try new things. And many times that I've experienced it even personally, is you think that it's a linear progression to be successful. And we both know, after, just our time knowing one another, it's beyond linear. It's not even close to being that way. And so I want to put things out there and put stories out there to help people understand they shouldn't quit. They just have to continue to find, like you said, find those exercises that you hate, but it's going to make you better. And so that's the purpose of the podcast. And that's what I want to dive in today. But before we get into that, I'm always enjoying to do something a little fun. So would you rather? Have you played Would You Rather before?
Of course. Yes, that is fun.
Okay, well, this is a fun one. So would you rather freeze time or go back in time?
Definitely go back in time. Of course, that leads to 1,000 other questions. I would love to have a glimpse into what it was like to actually see Jesus in person.
Okay.
I'd love to be around at the beginning of our country, even though it was full of hardship and war and bloodshed, still to see the resilience and what these people were made of. I think, it's just incredible. I think of Francis Marion and Swamp Fox, and just to be around in those days, I think would be really cool. There's just so much that has happened in the history of humanity that could teach us so much. I'd love a glimpse of it outside of just reading about it or watching movies and hearing stories, but I'd love to see some of it in person. So I think that's why I'd like to go back in time.
That's cool. Okay. Live without music or TV?
Oh, I could definitely live without TV. It's an ongoing battle at our house anyway, because I wish we didn't have one. But I have 2 sports obsessed fellas in my house that would be highly upset if we didn't have the TV. But I could care less, but I love music, all types of music, all genres. Music is just, it's a great way to think back to memories, associated with different music. And it's just kind of a backdrop to all of our stories. So I definitely would not want to live without music.
What was one of the last songs you were listening to that you remember?
Oh my goodness. Norah Jones. I love Norah Jones. This is kind of a funny story, but every weekend our house is a little bit of a meeting place. Our son and all of his friends crash at our house, which we love because he's here. They're playing basketball and doing all the things. Well, it just destroys my house. They eat us out of house and home, which I also would not change. But yesterday I had Norah Jones playing while I was mopping because it's been pouring rain here for 2 days, and I've had 15 teenage boys in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out of our little small home. So I was blasting Nora Jones, and they were all sleepy-eyed, waking up, coming down, like, what are you listening to? I'm like, you guys need to get to know this music. This is good music. And they're like, whatever.
They'll appreciate it one day.
When they're over 50.
Yeah, right. Well, when she came out, that was like 20 years ago when she came out, by the way, which is crazy.
That is crazy. 20 years ago still feels like 5 years ago. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you rather read a book or listen to one?
Oh, that's a tough question because I love both. The space I'm in right now, I have to listen more often than touch the pages because I'm on the go so much. But there's nothing better to me than holding a book in the page. I love the feel of the pages in a book.
Mm-hmm.
The progression of actually seeing the progress of turning the pages does something for me. So I'm still old school in that way that I love books. Actually read your book, hard copy, which was such a good one. I loved it so much. But I do find there are certain books that are easier to listen to, like David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me. That one's easier to listen to than to read. And I've done both with that book. So I'm really torn. I'm 50-50 there. I guess it depends on the space you're in and what's going on in your life as long as you're reading and absorbing information, I don't care how you do it, kind of thing.
Right. No, I agree. And you're right, because some of those books, like his new one, Never Finished, is really good as well.
I haven't read that.
It's the same format to where it's the author reading and then they interview him. And I'm particular, I only, if I'm able to listen to books that the author reads, because I feel like it's just cold and lifeless. If it's just some perfect narration who has wonderful, beautiful diction and all, it's missing the life of the book and the author to me.
I totally agree. And I'm really hung up that I don't like fiction. I feel like my time is so limited. If it's not real, I don't care. Like there's so much to be absorbed from fiction though, but I've just kind of shut it out of my life where I'm trying to absorb all of this information from people that have done the things that I'm trying to do or, help with mindset. So I'm in this space of nothing but biographies and business books and how to win and that sort of thing. So I've just dove into that for the past 5 years. I know there's some space in there where I'm missing some enlightenment from some good books that are probably fiction, but I just can't do it right now.
Yeah. No, I completely understand. And then the last question, this is a fun one. Would you rather have pizza or tacos?
Tacos. And I love them both. But tacos, so I have an aunt who's no longer with us. Her name was Aunt Janet. She was the funniest woman on the planet. She was so full of joy and jolly, and she was obsessed with tacos. My family's from California. I live in South Carolina, but when I would go see her, we would go to Reno and we would go to Del Taco and we had a contest. Now I was 10 years old. She was 50 something, but she would take me and we would have a taco eating contest. On who could eat the most tacos. And it was some of the most fun memories that I have of her. So I associate tacos with my Aunt Janet. It just brings out so much joy and so fun that, she took that time with me outside of the rest of the family to go do something completely ridiculous and totally fun. And I have such wonderful memories. So yeah, I guess I associate food with memories like I do music with memories, but that's why I immediately would know tacos would be the answer.
Yeah, me too. And I'm going to challenge you to go do a taco eating contest with your son and husband soon.
I don't know if I can do it.
You have to, and you have to record it for social media content.
I don't think I could get through it. I mean, back then I had a gut of steel. These days, I've been more on the healthy side of eating. And I think if I did I know they'd beat me hands down, but if I tried to eat a bunch of tacos, I think my body would probably revolt.
But think of how fun that would be. Maybe just you can be the referee between Wayne and your son. Maybe that's what you should do.
I'll have to come up with something, but yeah, I think at this age. I don't know how she did it. And she was fierce and competitive. It was so funny. But
Well, maybe she was ruined for days after the contest, but it was all about
probably,
Amy and wanted to make sure Amy had fun.
probably, yeah. And it was fun. I'll never forget it.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I know there's going to be a large circle of our mutual friends that know who you are, but I'm hoping to grow the reach beyond and add you to other people's networks. So let me introduce you. And you're Amy Tucker. You're a wife, a mother, a business owner, and you're the founder and CEO of Salty Britches.
That's right.
And we connected through most of my network lately through Chad Wright and the 3 of 7 project and your sponsorship and your belief in him and what he did. And then that network has grown to a massive family that includes not just them, but the 29029 crew and BYLR and just all these different people that you've surrounded yourself with. And we're all starting to see these networks merge together, which is really cool.
Totally. Yes, it is.
And so what I would love for you to do, because a lot of people have heard your story, but briefly, because I want to dive into different things that maybe you haven't talked about, or you're able to share some of the nuggets that you have for people, but give people a brief history of how Salty Britches came about and some of the things that you've been able to accomplish along the way.
Okay. And I'll start by saying that I'm 47 years old. So this was something that I never anticipated happening. This was not the plan I had for my life. I'm a reluctant entrepreneur, really. But it started because my son, who just turned 17, he was around 6 or 7 years old, and we would vacation at the beach off the coast of South Carolina every year. And he was a little skinny thing, but boy, he suffered horribly from saltwater chafing. Just within 5 or 10 minutes of playing in the ocean, he was so miserable, crocodile tears. And we would vacation with other families. And I noticed the other kids suffered too, but my son really, really suffered. Like it was open, raw skin. It was unbelievable. Anything, like if he would touch a boogie board, he'd really get it really bad under his arms, on his belly and his chest and his groin area. So we went on just a tour to try to find a solution. And everyone kept telling us, we know this is a problem. This comes up a lot. Just go get some diaper rash cream from the drugstore. And we had been down that route. We had tried lots of things. So after one particularly really bad vacation, I went home and I'm like, I've just got to fix this for him. I've just got to come up with a solution. This is unbelievable that he is suffering like this. And we all love the beach and he loves the ocean, but it was that bad. So I started doing some research. I have a chemistry background. I have a degree in chemistry. I was in the pharmaceutical business for 17 years. I was in manufacturing engineering 5 years before that. So I just decided I'd figure it out. And that's what I did, is I just solved problems. So I started doing some research and ordering raw materials that I knew would behave well together. And I worked on the formula and I put it in a Tupperware container just for him. And we would go to the beach a few times a year and we'd go with our other friends, and we started passing around Amy's goo in the Tupperware container so all the kids could slather it in all the places. And then in 2017, it dawned on us, these kids have been in the ocean all day long. They have not come out of the ocean. We have enjoyed our vacation without leaving the beach, which had never happened before. So a girlfriend of mine, who was actually our pastor's wife, she said, you need to post on Facebook. You have a solution to this. And I'm still working in pharma. I had this whole career mapped out. My whole life was mapped out. We lived on the golf course. We had a pretty good middle-class life. We were very content. And I'm like, and I have a love-hate relationship with social media anyway. So I didn't have that much activity on Facebook. I didn't have an Instagram account, nothing like that. So I posted at her pushing, just because it could help other people. She said, there's so many moms out there that could really benefit from this. So I posted, hey moms, if you're getting ready to go to the beach, I think I have a solution for saltwater chafing if your kids suffer from this. And that one post, I had 700 comments, messages, direct messages, text messages, like my phone just started going bananas. So we decided, oh my goodness, I've got to go home and make this huge batch of this stuff we didn't even have a name for. I've got to do it the right way, because if I'm going to order all these raw materials and hand make this, I need to be able to write it off on my taxes. This is how my brain was rolling while we were sitting on the beach. So I gathered all the adults in a circle and I told them what was happening. And, they were all like, you got to name it. So right there on the beach, we gave it a name. We came up with Salty Britches. And right there on the beach, I actually ran back to the room and grabbed my debit card, came back to the beach, and set up my LLC through LegalZoom right there on the beach. Did it all that day. And then I went online and ordered all my raw materials. Called my bank, set up a new checking account just for this new LLC. Like, I was thinking compliance, I want to do everything compliantly. And that's exactly how it happened. And never, ever in a million years did we think this would do anything. We thought this was just a local product I would hand make in my kitchen for those that needed it, and that was it. But it quickly grew. Demand really grew to the point where we had to make a decision. Either we're going to jump off of this cliff or we're just going to stop it altogether. Because I had my life planned out. I was in pharmaceuticals. I had a good career. Why in the world would I flush that down the commode to go chase something that I had no answers to? That was not, it was a total risk. And I think to Ephesians 3:20, God will do more than you ever ask or imagine. And I had to really absorb that and think, okay, Lord, you gave this to us. What do you want us to do with it? So from there, we, the following year, we sold everything we owned, and we had a lake cabin that had been in our family since 1980 that we affectionately call the tiny house. There's no washer and dryer hookup. There's no closets. So we thought, well, we'll just move into that, which means we had to move our kid out of private Christian school to public school in the 7th grade in a new town. That was fun. He actually handled that really, really well. That was hard for him, but he handled it well. We moved churches. We moved everything. We picked up our life and we physically did a complete flip. Sold everything, all of my suits, my shoes, a lot of my clothes. Like, we literally just purged our life and moved to the tiny house. Built our shop, which is where I am now talking to you, which became our warehouse. And we've been just digging this ditch as hard as we can go ever since.
Well, I love the story, and it never gets old to hear it. And you've told it so many times, and it never gets old. So I appreciate you sharing that. I want to rewind a little bit because I want to dig into a couple of things that you shared that I feel like a lot of people struggle with. I know I struggle with. It was that decision. Mm-hmm. So you have this idea that necessity is the mother of invention, right? I mean, you had a need, so you created something because you saw a need and created it. That's the easy part. But then it came to the demand came up, and you're trying to make the decision of which path am I going to go on? Mm-hmm. So I want you to please dig in to how long did it take, and what were some of the big struggles that you had during that time, and how did you, I guess, what were the things that you used to help you make that decision?
Gosh, I'll try to be as concise as possible.
You don't have to be concise.
There's so much. And really, it boils down to, I think, our faith and my husband. And this makes me emotional. I don't often think back to this process, but Wayne and I have been married for 20 years, and he is very much the leader of our family and the backbone. Let me get it together.
You got me too.
Oh my goodness. Just tears instantly. So Wayne is an engineer, and he's very risk adverse, which is so funny. And he he is analytical. He's all the things I'm not, which is great. I'm always about, let's just try it and figure it out, and let's jump off the cliff and just figure it out as we go. That's very much my personality, where he tempers all of that, which is exactly what I need. So when this came up, it was more of a nuisance, really. Like, oh my goodness, this demand exists. So every day for 6 months, Wayne would get home before I would, because I was traveling and driving and doing all the things that we did in that life, in that career. And he would have the whole kitchen laid out. And because I had a specific process to blend and melt and all these things, he would let me do all that when I got home. And then we would pour in all the little jars, and like our entire kitchen, all of our counter space was full of these jars. And then he and Trent would put the lids, and Trent was so young. He would put all the little stickers on the lids. And we literally had a cooler on our porch. And I would fill that cooler every night with Salty Britches, and every day I'd come home, it'd be empty, and people would put a $10 bill in the cooler and take the Salty Britches. Like, people probably thought we were doing all sorts of ridiculous things. But what got us, the response of people we did not know that started showing up, they would show up to our home, and we had no idea who these people were. I'll never forget a pharmacist who I had never talked to in my life, but our neighborhood was a pretty big neighborhood. He lived in our neighborhood, and I knew Wayne had played golf with him here or there, but I was in my bathrobe sneaking out my trash can to put at the road for garbage pickup and trying to run out and run back real quick before anyone saw me. And the pharmacist pulls into my driveway, and I'm like, I had no idea who this guy was. He introduces himself. He's like, hey, I've heard about your product, and I really want to carry it in my store. And I'm standing there in my bathrobe like, oh my word, who in the world? And I'm so embarrassed. And then he tells me who he is, and I'm even more embarrassed. I'm like, can I just call you later? Can I get in touch with you later? Oh, yeah. And then another local market called me. Well, they actually sent me a Facebook message and said, hey, why don't you let us sell this product at our store, which was a total relief. Oh gosh, that'd be great. And then it just started, people showing up in my life that wanted to sell the product. And I thought, oh my gosh, how in the world am I going to meet this production demand? So Wayne went to work, and he started engineering the whole process of, all right, if we're going to get a manufacturer, how are we going to do that? All right, here's a couple of manufacturers I found by asking through his network of, manufacturers that did OTC products and cosmetics and that kind of thing. None of them would talk to me. They all laughed in my face, actually, because I was so small and I didn't know what I needed at the time. I was just calling people. So that was kind of step one of the demand and the people we did not know showing up. And then the testimonials from people that we did not know. So one of the hardest parts of this that took me the longest to get through was not really having the support of the people that we did know. We had a lot of support of close friends and people, and we still do. Let me preface and say, but our network got very small, which was really interesting. And then the people we did not know came into our life, like you, Jeff. I didn't know you before Salty Britches. It was like God had to clean out a lot of space for us to go down this path. And that is from the top to the bottom. That's our heart. That was our network. It was our friend group. He flushed it all out. That was very painful, but it was necessary. And we never anticipated that part of it at all. But I think part of that was a result of us moving to a new town, which we kind of had to do, really. Moving schools, because we were in that school system. We knew the people, the teams, the sports teams our kid played on, we knew all those parents and loved them all. They were all great people. But I think when everyone started seeing this, who does this? Who comes up with an anti-chafing product and makes it a thing? Like, that just doesn't happen. It's bizarre. So it was it was hard for me that I had such a big, strong network and, a big friend group down to a very, very small, tight friend group. That was a bit hard, but yet necessary. So we went through that, but Wayne really orchestrated our move and what our options were, and then how we were going to do it financially, because we have bootstrapped this entire thing. We can't do that forever. In fact, I'm getting to the place now where I'm like, okay, I got to go to the next step. But I own 100% of the business. It's women-owned small business. We're certified with that. So really, I think it's so sweet to look back and say, gracious, the good Lord knew what he was doing when he put Wayne and I together, because we're a great team.
Mm-hmm.
And for him to literally orchestrate it on paper, which is what he did. And he knows what my strengths are. I know what his strengths are. He went after his strengths. I went after my strengths, and it just worked. But there was a lot of prayer involved, a lot of journaling involved, which that's not even something I really did before.
Mm-hmm.
I got to where I started writing my prayers so I could give words to it, because I just was so overwhelmed and had no playbook. And we were making decisions very quickly, and we were very decisive, which was helpful. We didn't always make the best decisions. We screwed it up a few times, but for the most part, we got it right. So that's some of the ins and outs of kind of how we did it all. And then our son in the 7th grade, now he was not terribly excited about this move, but when we explained what we were doing, that was a very difficult school year for him. 7th grade stinks. I don't care where you go to school. But for him, it was very difficult. And at the end of that year, he actually came to us and said, this was the role I had to play. And that doesn't come from a normal, that was divine, I think.
Yeah.
His mindset protecting him and helping him grow and be a part of this. So, but just being willing to uproot our family, go someplace where we didn't necessarily ever envision we would go. And we just kind of did it. We just moved so quickly. We just kind of did it. I really don't even know, except we had a plan and we stuck to the plan. And that plan was orchestrated by Wayne engineering. All right, here's our options. Here's our choices. This is what we should go do. And then Trent and I buying in, because Wayne's the head of our family. Okay, that makes sense. Let's go do it. Let's just do that. So I would give anything, but I think it's all for a purpose, to be able to retire Wayne from his job. He's been at this career. He's been with the same company for almost 40 years. It's unheard of. He started at this manufacturer working swing shift to pay for his college tuition. So he's always done that. Even in high school, he went and worked at the local mill on mini shift. And then he'd go to football and he'd go to work, and he even drove a school bus back in the day. But needless to say, he's always worked. He's an incredibly hard worker. And he started at this company and he worked his way all the way up. So now he's in the engineering new product development role. So he's responsible for new business that this plant is going to be running in 10 years, 5 to 10 years, and developing new business and relationships with all the big automotive manufacturers. He has a very stressful job. And how he sat down, and he's so smart, and he just put it on paper. All right, I think this is a good plan. And then he came to me and said, what do you think about this? Can you think we can do this? And I'm like, I know we can do anything. I have full faith, we can do whatever it takes. And where he's more tempered of, all right, well, let's just one step at a time. Let's just take this first step. And it was putting our house on the market, which, by the way, did not sell right away. We put our house on the market. 6 months later, the golf course that we lived on folded and went under, and our property value dropped like a rock. It was horrible. We really went through a lot of real struggles. Fortunately, we had the little cabin, so we moved out of the house and rented it for over a year. Moved to the cabin. The people that rented the house couldn't buy or didn't want to buy the house or couldn't buy the house, whatever. They moved out. We put it back on the market, and the golf course by this time had really grown up and looked terrible. And we were on a par 3 with a pond. Well, in the back of this house was a spring, a natural spring that fed into the pond. There were some pipes under the road in front of our house that fed into that pond for drainage that had collapsed. So our backyard would flood up through the backyard. It was a mess. So we had to invest. That was another project we had to engineer. We had to invest like 15 grand to fix that problem that really wasn't our problem. But because the golf course was in foreclosure, no one would fix it. It would cost us more for legal work than it would to dig up the yard and put in the new pipes. It was awful. Meanwhile, we're still living in the tiny house. So we went through that process. It took us almost 2 years to turn that house and sell it. So we just buckled down. I mean, we had savings that we tapped into. Fortunately, we had made some pretty good investments, and we were able to tap into some of that to really pursue this business. But we had to go very slowly because I could only afford what I could afford. Right. So I couldn't go get the big marketing firms. I couldn't just blow up and go anywhere. Looking back now, that was the best possible thing that could have happened for us. It was by design. If we would have sold that house immediately and had that profit to dump it in, we'd have probably wasted every bit of it because we didn't have a clue what we were doing. So I've looked back and I'm able to appreciate the really difficult stuff that we've gone through and are still in the middle of. It's for a reason. And I just trust that our good Lord is, walking us through this path for a reason. You can buy your way out of stuff, but we're not able to. So I think we're learning a lot of wonderful lessons and meeting a lot of incredible people that otherwise we probably would not have. We've built a community around this product that had we gone to market and just gone straight to the big box and blown up, we would never have this community. Mm-hmm. So everything is for a reason. And for us and our family, it's more about who we can serve and the people around us than it is bukus of money. I just think, that'll probably come. That's our plan.
Right.
But it's, what are we going to do with that? And then meeting all these wonderful people and building this community has just been a side effect that we never anticipated and the best possible part of it. So that's a couple of the peaks of what we went through to make the jump, make the leap. And we sought a little bit of counsel. We talked to our pastor, who's a very good friend of ours. We spent a lot of time talking to him about this. In the beginning, when we were pouring into little jars, I actually had him come over and pray over those jars, just for the people that were going to use it, that it would help them, that we would make the right decisions and have some clarity. And we really did.
Yeah. And what I just want, everybody can just stop and rewind at the very beginning and then start over and listen to it again and again and again, because everything that you share is exactly the message I want people to hear, because it didn't happen overnight. I mean, like you said, as you started and before you even thought about making a decision, you were 6 months plus into it. The other part that I want people to notice about that is how you discuss the importance of a team. And that team is your immediate family. And then outside that team were your close friends that stuck by you and were willing to do the hard work and help. And I feel like now if we watch social media, the influencers and all these reels, I think they set traps for people to make them think that they could do it themselves. That, when times get tough, don't depend on anybody but yourself. And I'm like, no, that doesn't work, because we tell ourselves lies all the time that we start to believe. And I loved that you and Wayne put a plan together, and that you were willing to be a team, and for him to step out and think of risk because of it's something that you wanted to do. But then he helped you do that in a very good way that allows you both to step slowly but surely into that new risk and that faith that you had to do it. Because you talked about that he sat down and made a plan, and that he committed, and you both committed to stick to that plan. And that was just taking one step at a time. Right. Where so many times we say burn the ships and then charge the beaches.
Such a good buzzword.
Yeah. And then next thing you know is, we're in a heap on the beach and we haven't even made much progress.
That's exactly right.
And so I love all of that you shared, because it shows who you are. It shows everybody what Salty Britches is. And it's not just an anti-chafing cream. It's love, it's sweat, it's tears, it's dedication, it's hard work. And so many people see you now because you're continuing to grow awareness for the brand. And they think, okay, well, Amy just all of a sudden started this thing and here they're at. They don't see 2017
right
mixing and pouring into bottles in the kitchen.
Yeah. And that we're still in this grind of a lifetime. It's unbelievable how, I've always kind of been a bit of an overachiever, not to toot a horn or anything, but I've always just had this drive of go, do. But I have learned through this process that we really had so much more potential we had not tapped into, because we're forced into that space right now of all that is involved. Is unbelievable. All that I do during the day, I don't know how it happened. Like, it's shocking to me that I'm able to do some of the things that we do. And it's just shocking that not no one, that's not the right word, that oftentimes we're not tapped into our real potential that's available to us. And I think it takes stupid hard things to recognize, holy cow, I really can do a lot more than I'm doing.
It's like those jumping jack squats you started out talking about.
Yes. I'm in one giant long jumping jack squat. That's
right.
Exactly
life is full of burpees.
Yes.
You hate every single one of them. There's not one burpee, the first one to the last one. I don't like any of them. But you're grateful that you've done it. Your heart rate's up, you're sweaty. And then if you do burpees every single day, they get easier. They're not any more fun, but now you can do 20 burpees and then 25 burpees, and your heart's better, you run better. And so there's things that we have to do that we just don't enjoy doing, but we know they're good for us.
And you learn to take it in small chunks. You can't look at the entire mountain. We hear that a lot, especially from 3 of 7 project. You just have to take small bites and get to the next tree, and that's very applicable to what I'm doing every day. I'm just getting to the next tree. Okay. Then go to the next tree. That's very relevant to building a business and building a brand, especially a small brand like this, a small product that you've got to sell volume to really win. So, well, how do you do that? Well, don't ask me that yet, because I'm still figuring that out. I'm still in that space of getting to the volume, of working on supply chain. And the other thing too is, when we created our plan, we did it based on our values and our beliefs. And we knew, all right, no matter what, we're going to stick this Bible verse on the back of our tube. because that's the whole thing here. That's more important to us than anything else. It's our faith. So that's going to be number one. All right. Well, that's going to be a part of it. Number two, we are not going to import anything from China. Now, if you can go build a brand and not import tubes or not import anything from China, you've done something, because that is very hard. And we're proud to say we've never imported from China. We have stuck to our guns on what we're doing with our entire supply chain, and it has been tough. Now, I'm talking about Salty Britches, our products. Now, we've ordered some sweatshirts, t-shirts, hats, and oftentimes we're not exactly sure where they come from. That's been hard for us to that's not our core business. But our Salty Britches, our raw materials, our packaging, we have stuck to our guns for that. Now, we could have easily gone and gotten a hands-free applicator for Salty Britches imported from China yesterday. We refused to do it. So we're working on a hands-free option, but we're having to tool the thing ourselves, which is very expensive. So we're just not there yet. But we have these values and these core values of who we are as a company, what our vision is, what our message is. Now, that's been tweaked a little bit over time, but we've always had the vision. All right, we know Salty Britches is super robust. All right, so let's work with the most difficult to treat elements, like saltwater, like the ocean, like high humidity, extreme cold, extreme heat. That in tune worked into, let's work with the customers that are doing these things, the most difficult things, the hardest to treat kind of thing. And that was our plan all along. Let's shoot for the moon, and then we'll trickle down from there. And that's exactly what our plan was for Salty Britches. And we're still following that plan. We're still in that space. But our values drove our decisions. And that was harder than I thought it would be, because we could have sure gone a lot faster if we would have compromised in some way. But we refused to, because to us, there's a bigger picture here. And that slowed us down. My personality, it was very difficult. Wayne's personality, it made perfect sense. So we've had many conversations about just following the plan, follow the values. It will work itself out.
And I want people to hear that again, is following the values. If you don't know your values, you can't follow them. And that's such an important task, is if you feel like that you're on this random path and you're wandering through the woods and have no idea where you're going, it's because you don't have a compass. You haven't set your values on a piece of paper to where you know how to communicate with yourself and communicate them with other people. And I know for me, there's so many times that you can get off course. The only thing that brings you back is your values.
Yes.
And it's because when you're doing something on your own, you could literally spend 24 hours a day in front of a computer, in front of people. And I mean, it's nonstop if you want to prospect and all these different things. But for me, I had my values so out of whack for so long. It's God and family first. And so I'm not going to sit in front of a computer. I'm not going to prospect if it takes me away from spending time with my family. Now, there's an organization of time, but I'm trying to do better of during the day when they're not here, of doing that and not missing volleyball tournaments, football games, practice, because that goes away. They're not going to be in the house forever. And for us, my daughter's 12. It's what can we do to scrap and scrimp and whatever we need to do to get her through high school. And then if we need to go head deep into something, then we can go head deep into something, and Tammy and I can work it out together. But I'm not going to do it anymore but it didn't start until I defined my values on a piece of paper and looked at them on a regular basis that I had that compass. And that's what it sounds like you're doing the same.
Oh yeah. And when we were in that space, in that life before this happened, that is not how we ran our life. It was, okay, well, we have, the more money you make, the more you had to pay for. So it was all about climbing the ladder at work, winning the trips every year and getting the big bonuses and all of those things. And for what? Because really none of that matters. We live in a tiny house that we have no closets. And you know what? We don't even care. It's our entire life shifted to recognize, okay, what is important? Now, I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that I don't spend, 14 hours a day up here in my office, because some days I do. But what's cool about it is we built this in our backyard, and my son is up here oftentimes with us. My husband has a desk right behind me. We're here together.
Mm-hmm.
My son is throwing the boxes and doing all the things. Oftentimes there's a little grumbling involved, but he's very much a part of our duties here. So he gets to see firsthand what's involved with this, as opposed to me climbing the ladder in my pharmaceutical job. He had no idea what I did.
No.
He just knew what I sold, and there was a little bit of resentment, I could tell, because I traveled so much. He'd roll his eyes as a little kid. Oh, you got to go work on, XYZ drug. Well, yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. And I was missing so much of his life because, I want to accomplish and I want to win and I want to do these things. And, I thought that would teach him those values, when in all truth, that's not what I wanted to teach him at all.
No.
I did not know that until I got out of it. And then I got into something else. I'm still teaching him hard work. We've moved to the country. The kid knows how to drive a tractor. He knows how to do some things he would have never learned how to do on the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
But still, not that I judge anybody for that life, because everybody is different. We just weren't in line with where he wanted us to be. And now we feel that peace that we really didn't feel before, making, all the money and doing all the things.
Sure.
This is a completely different space. It's very hard to even put into words, really. It's just a feeling of a little more freedom, even though it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It's so hard to explain. It's so bizarre, but yet I just feel like we're in this place where we're exactly where we're supposed to be.
Right.
And I think you back that out. All right, well, if that's your end goal, to be where you're supposed to be, and you feel such unrest, that unrest is there. That is the Holy Spirit telling you that you're not where you're supposed to be.
Yep.
So if you're going to back out of that, all right, so I set this goal of, all right, where am I supposed to be, Lord? That's my goal. And then you back out of the goal to achieve it. You spend time in prayer. You spend time in, writing it out and getting it out. And with the right people around you, it'll reveal itself. But you have to be open to it, and you have to recognize, all right, all of this unrest, which is what I had when I was in that job, it's a message.
Right.
Okay, let's spend some time to figure out what this message is. Who in a million years would have thought it would be anti-chafing? I certainly didn't. Not in a million years. But I recognized the unrest, and I knew it was a message. And then it all kind of just fell into place.
Right.
And I knew that was from God.
Yeah, it sounds like when you were going in it was that great Bible verse. I think it was in Isaiah, but here I am, send me. Like you're like, okay, I'm ready to go. I've been doing my thing. I've been doing the Amy thing forever. And now you have spoken to me out of a need for your child of this is the direction. And that's what I love about the story is it didn't come from how can I make a buck and get out of my pharma job. It was, I need to make something to help my son feel better while we're at the beach. That's it. That's what it came out of. And that's what's so cool. And all of that has just continued to develop. So you talked about earlier that you like time travel. So we're going to play a time travel game again. So what would be, go back at the beginning for when you were just mixing and pouring stuff in the bottles. What would you tell Amy back then? What's one thing that you would tell her?
Yeah, I do know the answer to this. And I think I would tell her to take a breath, and you have got to yield this out of control, chaotic feeling to the Lord. He's going to take care of it. I was trying to control so much. I literally had to call my doctor to prescribe me something for anxiety because I was working full time and I was doing all this blending and pouring and communicating with people. And I felt like I was going to have a nervous breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
I felt so out of control of trying to do all the things, do it all, and it's going to, be wildly successful. I had to, over time, figure out, all right, get off the anti-anxiety meds. This is about yielding control to the Lord. And what is my faith really? And that's what I would go back and tell her. All right, where is the plumb line for your faith? Are you going to let him do this? Or are you going to just assume you know how to do it and kill yourself in the meantime? And that was a real turning point for me when I let go. I said, okay, Lord, I can't do this, but right. I trust you can. But that was just something physically I had to do. Sometimes I have to do it every day.
Yeah.
But I would go back and say, do that. That's what you need to do, instead of going through that period of, oh my goodness, I'm about to collapse here, because that is exactly how it felt.
Sure. Okay. So now go forward in time to Amy 5 years from now. What question or questions would you like to ask her?
Goodness, that's a tough one. I don't know, Jeff. I think kind of what I've learned through this is, if I'm not healthy, nothing else works. So, did you continue to make your health a priority? It's got to be, or nothing else. And, from the family aspect of things to your business, what does it matter if you're not taking care of your health and making that a priority? I haven't always done that. So I think I'd like to look back in 5 years and say, yes, I stuck to that. I was consistent. I made that a priority. It's tough too, because it's hard to think outside of where I am right now. Mm-hmm. Because there is so much right now that is swirling around that it's like, okay, I know what my goal is in 5 years and how I'm, orchestrating to get there. I think I would ask myself in 5 years, did you step back enough to really recognize where you could be of service and not let that pass you by through this process? Just recently, I'm on the board for my son's soccer team. And we have a brand new soccer coach this year. He's going to be great. He's young. He is a school teacher, and he's teaching the entrepreneur class at the high school. Oh, I wish I would have had an entrepreneur class when I was growing up. How fun. I want to take the class now. And we had a board meeting last week, and he came to me and he said, so I'd love to make you a judge for our business plans. I want you to be a part of that. I'd love it if some of the students could reach out to you. And I immediately, everything was overwhelmed, and I felt this crash. And I'm like, I can't commit to that. You got to give me dates well ahead of time, because I will be doing a lot of traveling starting in March. And this was for March. And immediately I went to me. I can't take on anything else. I have to say no. It's okay to say no. I would like to swap that mindset into, how can I be of service to these young people? Maybe it's not that capacity on that date, but what else could it be that I could be of service to these young people? And I'd like to do a better job of that. And then in 5 years, ask myself, did you capture the opportunities to serve someone else
Mm.
because often God wants us to do that too. Not get so wrapped into me, and what do I have the capacity to do, but where can I serve? So that's something I'm trying to work through now. And I hope in 5 years I'm a lot better at it than I am right now.
Well, you would think that you would. I know that you're not one that's just going to sit still, and especially now that you just spoke it out into the to the ether that will be there. So, Amy, thank you. I know you're very busy, and I appreciate the time that you spent to have a conversation with me. It impacted me greatly. So I want to know how I can support you and how the listeners can support you.
Well, I mean, prayer, certainly. There is tremendous pressure to be all things for everybody, to, for example, just recently, we're really we're feeling some of the persecution now because our name has gotten out there. We've gotten access to more people. More people are using our products. Not everyone is a Christian. And that's not our goal, to make everyone a Christian. But Jesus changed our lives so significantly. We feel like if you don't know about that, that hurts our heart for you. But now the persecution is coming. So it's, okay, Lord, how do I best handle it? I got a scathing email. We set up an email flow. Most businesses do. When you order something online, you get a series of emails. And in our email flow is I don't know why this makes me so emotional, but why we chose Philippians 4:13 and why it's on the back of every tube. And this woman sent me a message that said she had ordered the product and she wanted to return it. It was unopened. So we're like, wonder why, if you haven't even tried it, is there something wrong? Is it, is something wrong with the tube? She came back and said, I will never support a company that uses religion for marketing, that I am not a Christian, and I do not appreciate this message being pushed down my throat. I kind of get that. I really get that. And I've experienced it myself, and it's a yucky feeling. And I don't mean it. For example, we were at the running event in December, which is a running trade show in Texas. And Brogan Bannister was with me. Brogan. Mm-hmm. Gooder, which is a sunglass brand, used satanic messaging for shock and awe at the running event. And they put out invitations to come to this party to dance with the devil. And they decorated, or these people were dressed in this satanic garb with horns and all kind of crazy stuff, walking around the show. And it did what they wanted it to do. It got a lot of people talking about, oh my goodness, have you seen this? If you look at some of the names of their sunglasses, like Bourbon Shots with Satan, that's like the name of some of their sunglasses. It was so shocking and it felt so terrible to me. I kind of understood what she felt. So I came back to the message and I said, Jesus has changed our life. It's the core of who we are. We never want you to feel uncomfortable in any way. I gave her a complete refund. And I said, I'm going to give you a complete refund. We don't want you to send it back. She sent me back a message and told me how kind that was and that she was actually going to try the product. So I'm like, okay, we handled that well, because we're not out here trying to persecute people. That is not at all our goal. But we're not going to change our values in any way to make you feel better. That's tough. We don't know exactly how to navigate that. Mm-hmm. It's something I'd mentioned before is I was really nervous about the military coming and saying, we're going to give you a large PO, but you're going to have to remove the Bible verse off the back of your tube, which in turn our answer would be no way, no how. We won't do it. Fortunately, that has not happened yet. In fact, we've heard the opposite. Oh, you can leave it on there. We don't even notice it. We don't care. It doesn't matter, which is an answered prayer. But more is coming, and we know it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, okay, how are we going to choose to respond to it? And we're going to have to handle it every time it happens. And we know it's going to. So that's something, that's a way to support us. That's a very long answer of just prayer.
You
And
got
then, of
it.
course, you can find us on social media. Get Salty Britches is our Instagram. We've recently hired a guy to help us with the social media because it's difficult to stay on top of all of that and do a good job with it. We've been very fortunate. We've not done ads or any of that in the past. Here and there, we've dabbled in some stuff, but not really. Not like a lot of big brands do. And we've had so much organic content that has been shared with us. And that is a gift to a brand. If you like a product and you want to tell other people, that's how we've grown to this point, is word of mouth. And people that have been willing to share it on social media, that has been such a gift. It never goes unnoticed. We see it and it blesses us to no end every time we see it. We're so grateful for that. So anything like that is a huge support for us. And really, if you like the product, that we hope will come naturally. And if you don't, that's okay too. So it's just been blessed more than we deserve. But prayer.
You got it for sure. Amy, you're the best.
You too, Jeff. I appreciate that.
This was awesome. I really, really, really enjoyed it. So I want everybody to listen to it again, because you provide such great tactical information of what people need to do that you won't see it on social media and people doing fun TikToks pointing to these are the 5 things you need to do. It's just real life stuff. And that's who you are. And that's why I'm so happy that you came on today.
I appreciate you having me, Jeff. Thank you.
You're welcome.